Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by.
I have owned no car for 44 years. I've had no driver's license for 23 years. I'm glad I own no car. No monthly payments, no car insurance to pay, no unexpected breakdowns, no expensive repairs, no waiting in traffic jams, no traffic tickets, no spending big bucks for gasoline or electricity for the car, no vehicle inspections, no hassle finding a parking place, no parking tickets, no driving sleepy, as sadly I did many times, many years ago, and I was very foolish. No car vandalism, no flat tires. I save a hell of a lot of money. If you have a fancy new car, do you worry every time you park your car that someone deliberately, out of jealousy, or that someone accidentally will damage that fancy new car of yours? I get much exercise walking many blocks to catch buses. I ride city buses. I meet and talk with many people on buses. Cars are one huge cause of the catastrophic climate crisis. Cars poison Mother Earth, our only home in this universe. Cars cause wars for oil, killing many people. I would not keep any car if given to me free. Yes, having no car takes longer to go places and to do things in town, but why rush through life if you can avoid it? I condemn murders by violent gangs in the United States. But the bloody, awful truth is that since October 7th last year, President Biden, most of Congress, every U.S. federal income tax payer are responsible for the murders of over 33,000 Palestinian kids, women, and men in Gaza. Far more victims of the United States in Gaza than people in the United States killed by violent gangs here since October 7th. I called our senators, Heinrich and Lujan, and our Congresswoman Stansbury many times in Albuquerque and in D.C. to oppose U.S. support for Israel's evil genocide in Gaza. I have paid no U.S. federal income tax for U.S. wars for 45 years so far. U.S.-backed Israel has murdered about 200 medical workers in Gaza and about 400 journalists in Gaza. Most of the 7,000 people missing, their bodies are decaying under the rubble of destroyed homes and schools and hospitals. 7,000 besides the over 33,000 Palestinians murdered by the Israeli government, using billions of dollars of weapons. Biden gives Israel and the weapons from Germany and other nations. A Palestinian 5-year-old child whose both hands were destroyed in this war asked his father, "When I get big, will I grow new hands?" Feel that. Get that. Imagine if this were your child or your nephew or your grandchild or your closest neighbor friend's child. A 5-year-old Palestinian boy, both hands destroyed in this war, asked his father, "When I get big, will I grow new hands?" Sadly, Biden is a war criminal with the blood on his hands of many thousands of Palestinian kids, women, and men. And besides the 33,000 plus 7,000 killed, far more have been severely injured, blind, or with legs or hands or arms amputated, never to be the same again. Biden is a Roman Catholic, says he believes in God, and many Palestinians pray desperately for help, the best they know, but no God answers their prayers. I don't believe in a fair, loving parent God anymore. I used to. I used to preach and sing and pray to God. I wish we had a fair, loving parent God who would help all who pray for help. But it just ain't so. Why swallow and spread religious lies and bullshit? We're as sick as our secrets. Do you have secrets about yourself you have never told anyone, even your closest friend, your spouse? Our secrets can make us sick and keep us sick. I enjoy my body mostly naked when I'm warm enough, and I enjoy opening my life on this program, in my conversations, my letters, my articles. Our secrets can make us sick and keep us sick. Do you lie to hide your secrets? Do you appreciate when close friends confide deeply in you about their lives? Cleaning out the secrets in the closets of our lives can set us free to be real with everyone. I love personal questions. Have any of your friends or relatives told you they love personal questions? I mean it. We must never expect our friends to be open and honest with us about their lives if we are not open, not honest with them about our lives, our feelings. If you have a gas stove for cooking, get rid of it as soon as possible. Gas stoves poison the air inside homes. Besides methane, natural gas has 20 hazardous air pollutants. And some children get asthma from gas stoves. Burning gas or propane to cook meals creates dangerous pollution, not just in the kitchen, but in the whole house for hours. One of the poisons is benzene, a highly toxic chemical. Benzene can cause anemia and leukemia. Until you get rid of the gas stove, open the windows in your whole house when you are cooking if the weather is warm enough. Turning on one burner of a gas stove causes benzene levels like breathing in cigarette smoke. So if you wisely refuse to smoke cigarettes and don't want anybody smoking cigarettes in your home, remember, if you have a gas stove, one burner turned on causes benzene levels like breathing in cigarette smoke. I stopped cooking my food in 1998, over 25 years ago. Cooking usually destroys most of the nutrients, not all, but most. If we cook any seed on earth and then plant that seed, the seed will never grow. The cooked seed is dead. And for the best health, we need raw, living plant foods. And never microwave food. And of course, a lot of food in restaurants is microwaved. Microwaving is even worse than regular cooking with electricity. Even worse for the nutrition of the food. I ask you who sincerely believe in Jesus, sincerely believe the Bible, do you believe Jesus' mother Mary got pregnant with the baby Jesus with no man having sex with her? Do you believe the shepherds saw many angels in the sky and heard those angels speak to them in their own language? Why did I preach and teach for years these make-believe fairy tales from the Bible? Why did I swallow for years this religious bullshit as fact? Why did it take me years to stop swallowing and spreading these stories as truth? Do you sincere believers in Jesus believe Jesus rose from the dead after he was crucified? A friend who attends a local church regularly, faithfully, I asked him the other day how many of the people in the congregation he thinks actually believed that Jesus came alive from the tomb. And he said, 10%. Do you know of any woman in the world getting pregnant with no man involved? Has any sane and sober person you know ever seen real angels in the sky? Have you or anyone anywhere you know of ever seen a star lead them to the place they wanted to go? Crazy. Do you know of anyone for sure dead and buried coming to life again? Talk about crazy science fiction. Talk about false advertising by companies who want your money. Is it any wonder that many sincere believers who do not question deeply these Bible stories swallowed the damn lies of Donald Trump and many other politicians, many other religions and philosophies besides Christianity, are also loaded with crazy bullshit. Sadly, religious bullshit comes in many flavors, many brands, not just Christianity. Will we wake up, stand up, stop believing, or stop pretending to believe this crap? No matter how much our family and longtime friends pressure us and use hell to scare us into believing, sadly, millions of smart people all over the world turn off their bullshit detectors concerning religion or politics. They become like kids swallowing what adults feed them. In many places, for thousands of years, if I had said publicly what I have just said in these last few minutes, I could have been cursed, beaten up, tortured, locked up, run out of town, or killed. All in the name of the Creator of the universe. Much of religion, but not all, turns off our brains. Much of religion, but not all, is the enemy of freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. I'm glad my mother never told me Santa Claus was real, but sadly, she and I both swallowed the Bible's Christmas stories as fact and truth. We need to move our bodies as much as we're able until the day we die. Too much sitting on our ass kills us. Too much sitting on our ass is as deadly as smoking cigarettes. And one of many reasons to get rid of fat is we can feel more like moving our bodies if we are not carrying many extra pounds of fat. Gardening, daily chores in our homes, walking many blocks, especially on beautiful sunny days, bouncing or jumping on a small trampoline, dancing alone or with a partner, at home or in public. We need to keep moving our bodies as much as we're able until the day we die. Men, be careful how you lift heavy stuff. Men, more than women, can develop hernias in our lower abdomens near our cock if we lift too much weight with our belly muscles instead of mainly with our backs and legs. For many years, I had 2 small hernias, one on each side, going back to the 1980s, so about 40 years ago. And many years ago, here in Albuquerque, I showed my hernias to a surgeon. And he said, if they do not bother you, leave them alone. And I sure as hell was glad to hear that from a surgeon, because I fear surgeries. I fear knives cutting on my body. And since the surgeon saw my small hernias, a couple of years ago, one hernia became much larger. No pain yet, but who knows when I might have pain. If we have hernias, very important, never to get constipated. Would we sign any legal papers if we did not read, did not understand all the small print in the document? Sadly, millions of people do not read the lists of ingredients in their processed food, in cans, bottles, boxes, packages. We are fools if we trust those companies to protect our health. The companies spend millions of dollars to research which ingredients to addict us to certain tastes. Our health be damned. They want to make us junk food addicts to make millions of dollars for their companies. I eat no processed junk food in bottles or cans or boxes or packages. I want to stay as healthy as I can as long as I live, if possible. The list of ingredients starts with the biggest ingredient. Companies often use many different words in the list for the slow poison sugar to deceive us on how much sugar is actually in that item. Sugar is the gateway drug. Sugar is slow poison. Sugar causes or worsens 50 bad health conditions. Sugar is as addictive as heroin, far more addictive than cocaine. And added chemicals often have big names on the label that we do not understand. The U.S. government officially kidnapped many thousands of Native American children for 150 years. The U.S. government stole these many thousands of Native American children from their tribes, from their families. The U.S. government forced them to go to boarding schools to rob these children of their native languages, their native ways, their native culture. How many of these children were beaten by the white people in charge? How many were raped? How many cried themselves to sleep, homesick for their mother and dad? How many of them learned to hate themselves for not being white? How many of them ran away? How many of them never learned how to be a good father or a good mother to their own children because they were in these boarding schools? How many of these children later became addicted to booze and to other drugs to forget the hell they suffered as children in those boarding schools? How many became mentally ill for life? How many of these children, as they grew up, were duped, conned, baited, recruited by their oppressor, the U.S. government, to become U.S. soldiers to murder indigenous people in other nations? How many of these Native American soldiers had been so poisoned as children to believe the white people's God approved of U.S. wars abroad? How many of these Native American soldiers came home in body bags? How many returned as alcoholics, wanting to forget forever the atrocities they committed to other human beings who were not white? Some homeless people become too old for the child welfare system they were in. And some homeless recently lost their jobs. Some are homeless because they are old and can no longer work. Some homeless were abused at the city's permanent homeless shelter on the west side. Some homeless were banned from that shelter because of their mental problems. City employees have hunted homeless people down. Not all city employees, but some city employees. Some city employees have crushed all the belongings of the homeless persons in trash trucks. How would you feel? How would I feel if the few belongings I still had were grabbed and stolen and crushed in trash trucks? What could I do about it? Some city employees told them to move along, although there are no designated places outside for these homeless people to sleep. Police jail people for sleeping in a dog park. Police jail people for sleeping under a bridge. Almost all homeless people want a room, a bed, heat, and a toilet. Average monthly Social Security disability check is $632.46. $632.46. Maybe it's gone up a bit. And the average monthly rent for a studio apartment in Albuquerque is $969. Around 5,000 homeless people in Albuquerque. About 1,100 beds in shelters, 450 beds in the jail, but around 5,000 homeless people in Albuquerque. So it's cruel, it's evil to lock up homeless people for sleeping on public property outside. How would I feel? How would I feel if I were homeless, especially on cold, windy, rainy, snowy nights? I hate being cold. I hate being wet. How would I feel if I were homeless when I walked past large, warm, dry mansions where only one or two people live? How would I feel as I walked past church buildings and office buildings, warm, dry, empty at night? If I slept outside at night, where would I shit? Do we give a damn about our homeless sisters and brothers? And if the United States stopped sending hundreds of billions of dollars for weapons and war to Israel, if the United States stopped spending hundreds of billions of dollars for weapons and war all over the world, that money could provide simple, small homes for all homeless people who need and want shelter. We can learn so much from the misery and the mistakes of our loved ones. My mother was my all-time closest friend. My mother and I had many strong arguments. We had many serious conflicts, but she was my closest friend. No one will ever love me more than she did. Probably no one will ever love me as much as she did. My mother died at 74 in 1982, over 42 years ago. She enjoyed the TV comedy that had a good message, All in the Family, with Archie and Edith Bunker. My mother loved beautiful, heart-touching music. My mother supported marriage between whites and blacks, but sadly, she did not live long enough to see her oldest grandson, Daniel, marry the black woman, Bonita. My mother did not live long enough to see their 3 children, now adults. My mother loved to give to other people. Giving was her habit. My mother's high was giving. My mother taught me to stand up for what is fair and right. She was glad to see herself in her wheelchair on television news at a protest demonstration when she was 71, when she was with me here in Albuquerque. My mother expressed her deep feelings, sadness, anger, love. My mother was smart on many things. She was a very honest, conscientious secretary in our family's business. She remembered many telephone numbers. And like millions of people, she yearned for passionate romance, but was not in love with her husband, my dad, for most of their 48-year marriage until she died. When she married at 26 years old, she weighed 98 pounds. She was lean. She was very active physically on the Illinois farm where she was born, the farm where she lived all her life, the farm where I grew up. Until I was born, when she was 38, she drove tractors, trucks, milked cows. At 26 years old, weighing 98 pounds, how could she have imagined weighing 270 pounds in her 50s? At 26, weighing 98 pounds, how could she have imagined having huge legs filled with fluid because of heart and kidney diseases? My mother loved children, but she hated having children stare at her huge legs. She wore long dresses to hide her huge legs. She did not go to doctors for many years. She was afraid they would find cancer. Her mother, my granny, died of cancer in her liver and colon. Walking a short distance became work for my mother. She no longer washed most of her body. She no longer could wipe her own ass because of her fat. Yes, I was ashamed. She sat in a chair to sleep for years, slumped over because her back hurt her bad when she got up, if she would lie down at night. Maybe from the kidney disease that finally killed her. For many years she got almost no sunshine. And sadly, like millions of people, she ate almost no raw greens. Besides many bananas, she ate almost no raw food. My mother and my dad were miserable cellmates in the prison of marriage until she died. And much of the time it was emotional war. If I had been my dad, I do not know how I could have coped being married to my mother. And if I had been my mother, I do not know how I could have coped being married to my dad. I wish I wish they had parted peacefully or had never married. They might have been good friends if not married to each other. Marriage destroys or harms many friendships. And I have no interest in getting married to any man on earth. My mother said about my dad and my brother, they think I don't know anything because I'm a woman. And after I told her when I first had sex with any man when I was 31, she feared losing her closeness with me if I would have one long-time lover companion. And she had lost her closeness with my brother when he got married at 20. She had been close to him when he was a teenager. I have only one brother, no sisters. He was almost 11 when I was born. My mother was 38 when I was born. And after that, she got fatter and fatter until she was 270 pounds in her 50s when I was a teenager. How did my brother feel seeing his very active, lean mother become so fat, so trapped in her sick body? Did he subconsciously blame me? Mother deeply loved both him and me. And the only poem she ever wrote was about my brother. I don't know if he realizes to this day how much she loved him, how much she wanted to stay close to him after he married, to have heart-to-heart conversations. My brother is 89, lives on his farm in Illinois. I never remember seeing my mother run, never. I never remember seeing her even walk long distances easily. She was an excellent secretary many years, long hours in the office, often from 8 or 9 in the morning until 6 or 7 or later in the evening. Very little exercise. And the fatter she got, of course, the less she felt like moving her body. For many years, no indoor toilet there at the office where she worked. So she held her shit. She held her piss. And that's very unhealthy. I do not know how I would have coped, how I would have lived with any enjoyment, trapped in her sick, fat body for many years. She hated going to our country church on Easter. Why? Because she saw other women there dressed in new spring clothes. And how did my mother feel seeing neighbor women walking miles for exercise, gardening, and she not able? How did she feel? Her body became the enemy. Her body became the torture chamber. Even though she was young at heart, she was full of life, she was passionate. I think my mother and dad seldom, if ever, had sex after I was born. She yearned for passionate romance for over 30 years. And like millions, she was starved for hot romantic sex. So sadly, my mother became severely addicted to sugar shit at night before sleeping. A poison substitute for hot, affectionate, romantic sex. She and I both were severely addicted to slow poison sugar shit, ice cream, cake, cookies, candy, when I was a kid and in my 20s. But I saw the hell my mother suffered, and I woke up. I changed. I eat no sugar shit. I stopped the ice cream, cake, cookies, candy over 40 years ago. My sweets are lots of fresh, whole fruit, not fruit juice. I eat blended carrots, sometimes raw honey. My mother used to tell me when she had me do many things for her that she could no longer do, I would not ask you if I could do it myself. She said, someday you will understand. I have learned so much from the misery and the mistakes of both my mother and my dad. I have treasured sex and romance with certain men, but I'm so glad I never got married to any man. I speak about the suffering of people being fat. Yes, instead of saying just heavy or overweight, I refuse to dance around the very serious problem of being fat. Because I saw what hell my mother suffered. I tell it like it is. And if I can help anyone avoid getting fat, or if I can help anyone lose their fat and get lean and healthy and to enjoy their body until they die, I'm glad. We can wake up. We can change. I have no desire to get married to any man on earth. I do not want to add 1 pound of fat to my body. And every pound of fat, more than our ideal lean and body weight, puts more strain on our knees, our ankles, our hips, our back, our heart, our lungs, our liver, our kidneys. Every pound of fat more than our ideal lean and healthy body weight puts more strain on our knees, our ankles, our hips, our back, our heart, our lungs, our liver, our kidneys. We can learn so much from the misery and the mistakes of our loved ones. And anyone who wants to lose fat will lose fat by eating only raw plant foods, greens, seeds, nuts, vegetables, fruit, medicinal herbs. No cooked food, no meat, no dairy, no booze, nothing containing sugar or artificial sweetener. And I know of a man who lost 130 pounds by eating only raw plant foods. I saw the tragedy of staying stuck in a marriage miserable for both my parents. I saw the tragedy of my mother becoming severely addicted to sugar shit as a slow poison substitute for hot sex and the romance she was capable of and she yearned for. Many years ago, a black preacher visited me here in Albuquerque. He was married to a woman, but he was desperate for sex with a man. I did not have sex with him. Most men, most white men, most black men, most brown men, I am not sexually attracted to. Some brown men, some black men, some white men, I'm strongly sexually attracted to. I connected the black preacher to a close gay friend of mine. They had sex. And one of the best kept secrets worldwide is the millions, the hundreds of millions, probably the billions, of bisexual and bi-curious men who love sex and romance with one or more women, their wives or girlfriends, but also want sex with men. I remember my very attractive dear friend Eric. Eric had sex with many women, many men. Eric sold at the flea market. He was hot and sexy to the max. Shirt-free, wearing a hard hat like men in the music group YMCA. He had several children by different women. I wonder if Eric knew how many children he fathered. I well understand Eric's enjoying sex, but how much better if he had always used birth control with women unless he was ready, able, and willing to be a good father to those children. Eric and I never had sex, but I sure was attracted to him. Sadly, he died some years ago from drugs. If you believe in God, if you believe God is a loving, fair parent to all people on earth, now I don't believe that, but if you do, does God approve many millions of people in this nation hogging far more money, far more stuff than anyone needs, while many millions worldwide suffer winter's cold, hunger, sickness, with no home? Does your God approve spending many thousands on a luxury box for your decaying dead body when millions of living children go to bed hungry, sleep on the ground? If you're a loving father or mother, would you approve one adult son living in a huge mansion while your other adult son is sick and homeless? In Haiti, over 1/2 of the people survive on less than $2 per day, not per hour, $2 per day. And did those Haitian people in severe poverty choose to be born there? Did we choose to be born here? Crazy. How would any loving, fair parent God approve any religious person, Christian or Jew or Muslim, living in a big fancy house while other people suffer no home? Does your God want loads of money spent on church buildings or mosques or synagogues? Never once in the Bible, never once, did Jesus ask his followers to build him any buildings. No. Jesus taught his followers to help those most in need and to befriend the outcasts of society. Do you know any preachers, any priests, any rabbis, any imams, any TV evangelists who emphasize living simply and fairly in our world family of 8 billion people? I have no right to much more than I need, while many millions worldwide suffer on far less than they need. If religious leaders said that and lived that, many so-called religious people in the congregations would get offended, they'd get upset, they'd drop out. And the money collected in most congregations would drop big time. I no longer believe in a fair, loving parent God. I was a sincere 21-year-old Christian preacher 57 years ago in Sterling, Illinois. I was as sincere then as I am now. But I had not yet questioned deeply the Bible and my faith. I thank many people who helped me open my eyes on my very long journey away from religion. 57 years ago, if I'd heard me say this now, I would have been absolutely shocked. Big changes in our lives often do not come easily, do not come quickly. I wish we had a fair, loving, all-powerful parent God who helped all people who pray for help. Millions worldwide for thousands of years have prayed desperately but received no help. Zero. None. Imagine 10-year-old Jose who goes to Sunday school, and the kind Sunday school teacher tells Jose and the other children that Jesus in the Bible promises God will help people who pray for help when they're suffering. And that night, Jose's drunken father, who has cursed and beaten Jose's mother many times, but that night, Jose's drunken father seemed especially mean and crazy. He comes home, and Jose senses that this is even worse this night. And Jose prays desperately. He's afraid this time his drunken father will kill his mother. Jose prays desperately to God to keep his mother safe. But his drunken father stabs Jose's mother to death. If we were Jose, would we still believe Jesus' promises for those who pray? Would Jose's Sunday school teacher understand why Jose stopped coming to church? Does the Sunday school kind teacher still believe herself that God helps those who pray? One of the worst evil sentences in the Bible: he who spares the rod hates his son. Proverbs 13:24. Using pain and violence on your children's precious bodies to make them live right and act right? Some of the worst evil advice ever written in the world about how to raise your children. He who spares the rod hates his son. Proverbs 13:24 in the Bible. Beating and bruising your children shows you as parents love your children? Insanely evil advice. How many white cops, how many black cops, how many brown cops who beat and murder people as cops were beaten as kids by church-going parents who believed that damn evil sentence in the Bible. He who spares the rod hates his son. Will the hit-and-run driver who probably deliberately hit me May 16th last year, was he or she beaten by his or her parents? I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. How many people in prison for murder were brutally beaten by their parents? How many alcoholics, how many wife beaters, how many heroin, cocaine, meth addicts have scars on their bodies and horrific memories of parents beating them with hands, straps, yardsticks, belts, tree branches? How many kids learn to take the evil abuse showing no tears, no feelings, in order not to give their father or mother the satisfaction of the kid showing pain? How many of those adults beaten as kids cannot show deep feelings of love and sorrow? Family and friends may think these adults are cold and do not feel, but we must not judge a book by its cover. These adults learned as kids to cover up and bury their true feelings while father or mother or some other adult beat them. Imagine if the Bible had said the father and mother who give lots of strong, affectionate hugs to their sons and daughters from birth to death love them. Plenty of warm, sincere hugs and touches lifelong. With much help, adults severely abused as kids can slowly heal. With much help, parents who beat their kids, many parents who had parents who beat them, can wake up and apologize to their adult children they abused as kids and ask forgiveness. We can change. For most of us, forgiveness is not a one-time thing. We need to forgive ourselves and others whenever the memory comes. I thank Mark, Eddie, and Travis for helping me at the controls and on the 3 cameras many dozens of times for this program. And I welcome you to stop me on the street if you want to and talk. I love personal questions. I love heart-to-heart conversations. I thank you for watching, and to your health, to my health, my fresh piss. And this is practiced for health in Germany, England, the Netherlands, and for 9,000 years in Mexico, and 5,000 years at least in India. So it's not some new crazy idea that I dreamed up. Thank you.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love, let the music get you high, and when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine on. And when it's said and